Hello, hello. There isn't any music. I haven't set music up for that video. I need to. It's on my to-do list. Sorry. I was having a bit of a moment before stream started. It kind of happened, of course, straight out the door. Sorry about that, everyone. It's only 90 seconds long, I swear. I won't get too far into things just yet. I'm hoping that I didn't just accidentally make 2 links to the book we're going to be reading. Okay, good. I did not. Excellent. Okay. So we've got a new book we're going to be reading. I just need to pin it and go from there. Rip ads. Oh, so you snoozed it. Okay, thank you. Give me just a moment. Central tools for modern relationships. Support stream. Nope, I can spell. Alrighty. There we go. I said steam, not stream. My bad. It's fine. Doesn't matter. Okay. Fabulous. Thank y'all for sticking it out for me. Hi there, Alan. Thanks for popping in. Right. So it's been a sec. I'm sorry. Last week, my... Oh, hello, Neff and friends. Thank you so much for popping in. Thank you so much. Oh, we barely started, so you didn't miss anything. Oh, just checking in. Oh, hey, Jay, thank you so much for the follow. I appreciate that. Let me go ahead and pull you a... Let me go ahead and pull you a side quest card, Jay. And if anybody else would like to redeem side quest cards in the future, I have a redeem for it. I'm mute? What? Hang on. I'm mute. You're mute. Your face is mute. Everybody else could hear me. Probably because you have the window muted, buddy. All right. Okay, Jay. Your new side quest, should you choose to accept it, is to learn a new word and use it in conversation. And the quote attached is, "The impossible could not have happened, therefore the impossible must be possible in spite of appearances," by Agatha Christie. Yeah, Twitch is a bad boy. Whoop. Oh, we streaking. Is that actually a word, or is that a word you already know? Or are you just giving me the Josh? I feel like that is not an English word, but that's okay too, because it doesn't specify whether it's English or any other language. Is an actual word, but you already know it. You need to do a new word. Okay. There was one other thing I needed to do. It's Scottish. Well, even better. So like I was saying, I've been away for a sec because of work stuff. For those of you who, oh, hang on a second, that's a big old wall of text. Yes, good, do that. And anybody else, for a matter of fact. I know you just got done listening to Neff read and do a little bit of yapping. Feel free to, if you need to lurk and run, or lurk and snack, or lurk and take a piss, whatever you need to do, go do those things. I'm not going anywhere. I'm going to read for a couple hours at least, not counting any yapping that takes place between then and now. I keep getting distracted because of what I want to. I'm trying to speak and activity at the same time, and I am not a very good multitasker. Okay. I can't pin two things, so I will probably repost this at the end as well, or possibly put it in the Discord later under the appropriate um, channel. I think I will do that too, actually. So let me just do the housekeeping stuff, since, like I said, it's been a minute, and I wanted to update folks on things that are happening. I did do a guest spot stream recently on Neff's channel. I don't know if it's still in the VODs or not, and that's okay if it isn't. It was a very big, hard, hot, heavy sort of conversation about some stuff that's been going on at home. I won't regale you with the details right now, but it's been a lot of stuff that's been weighing heavily on my mind. Relationship related things mostly. In addition to that, I had gotten a new part-time job, and I have been doing a lot of that. My manager was out of town, or is about to go on out of town. I can't remember which one. So I was covering shifts, and I was also doing training. It was like 3 to 4 days of training. It was very fast, fast and loose, to put it mildly. But it's a pretty easy job. It's really just about making sure that I hit the appropriate things that need to be done for the shift. I work as a fast casual baker, if you will, and I do that currently 3 days a week, possibly less than 3, depending on how busy things are. It's one of those, because we live in a college town area. The customer base kind of fluxes with whether or not students are around. So, mostly doing closing shifts, which are 6 to 12 or 6 to 1, and sometimes 6 to 2, depending on how dirty the lobby is, how much time I actually got to do any of my side work, and that sort of thing. So I've been getting home pretty. I have it on AFK, don't mind me. I'm not hands above the table. I'm not doing anything, I promise. I'm just waiting for my items to sort into an auto sorter, so I didn't want to not have it not work while I'm streaming. Hopefully it doesn't ruin the quality of the stream. You're getting me distracted. Hush. So work has been a thing. I'm adjusting. The one thing I'm having problems with right now is that I'm having a lot of like body pain because of it. For anybody who knows me personally, they know why. For those who don't know me personally, I'm about to give you a little bit of info. Yeah. I'm not mining at night. I'm in somebody else's base, a shared base. I'm on a server. I was actually going to talk a little bit about that as well. So, I have fibromyalgia, and I have chronic pain, and I have a lot of general like bone and muscle and body issues overall. I have chronic venous insufficiency in both of my legs, especially my left leg. I have spinal stenosis. I have arthritis heavily in my hips. Um, I am out of shape. So I don't have a lot of muscle strength and stamina right now, aside from just carrying my own body weight. And um, the amount of lifting heavy boxes of product is enough that it's causing me pretty moderate pain throughout my shift and usually a day or two after my shift. I've been using my back brace pretty much since day 2, and it has helped, but I wouldn't necessarily say that it has made everything better. Like, I'm definitely still feeling a lot of back pain. I take a couple different prescription medications for that. I do not use medical marijuana. That's not my thing. There's a lot of trauma related to that. I don't really want to get into it right now. Maybe another time. But that's the only medication that I take is over the counter medication, and I do physical therapy to try and help increase my strength and stamina to try and help with that. I also have a really bad um, IT band syndrome. It's the main muscle that runs along the outside of the legs. So because it is so tight, my legs naturally splay open, and because of that, my posture is really bad. The weight on my knees doesn't super distribute well. There's just a lot of crap wrong, and it makes doing really physical jobs like this difficult for me. So I'm going to give the job itself about a month. It's a good hat. A friend of mine made it. I'm going to give the job about a month, and if I'm not feeling better about the job at the end of the month, I might start looking for additional work. As it is, my other job is Sundays only. It's a 12-hour day, and it's not enough to pay for my bills and keep a roof over my head, and that sort of thing. We have roommates now. Um, that's a whole thing. I can talk about at a different time because I don't want to be overheard and I don't want to cause any more additional problems than I already have with some of the stuff that's going on between me and my spouse because it's really complicated. So, I am adjusting to all of those things. I'm adjusting to medication changes. I'm adjusting to new roommates who have a dog. I did not necessarily want this dog to be in the house, but I didn't really have a say in the matter. That's a whole thing by itself. Um, I was going through hormone therapy for a little while, but I've decided to discontinue it for the time being because I'm too anxious about specific body changes that might make me look like my male genetic provider. So I don't want to do that. I thought maybe I would. Um, I had an encounter with a person at one of my previous jobs where they were non binary and they had done some hormone replacement therapy and they liked how they were looking. And it gave me a moment of encouragement to think maybe I could give it a try. Maybe I could just do it to the point where I feel comfortable and then do like a maintenance dose from then on and not have to go any higher than that. The thing is, though, is anybody who may already have done hormone therapy, it can take up to a year before you're even really able to see the results you're wanting. But there has already been some appearance related things that have been bothering me that I've been finding it difficult to ignore. My acne has deeply increased. I had it a lot worse last month. I've been like religiously applying acne medication cream to my face to try and mitigate that, but it's still really bad around my temples where my glasses rest. It was already bad there, but it was like significantly worse. I've been getting acne on and inside and around my ears. I have it along the top of my forehead. Um, I've always had really good skin, so the fact that this was happening was kind of bothersome to me. I know it's not an uncommon thing to happen to anybody who starts doing hormone therapy. I've also had a hysterectomy, so a lot of my body has been going through additional changes just from that. I still have my ovaries, so the hormones there were still happening, but I'm also later in age. I don't know, it doesn't necessarily look like it. That's mostly because I'm a basement dweller and I haven't done a lot of things that would cause my skin to look any younger than it is. Um, but it's very likely that I probably would be at least premenopausal, if not menopausal, by this point in my life. So it was something I was already kind of expecting, but then things started to take a turn. I have much deeper sideburns than I previously had. I have some growth around the underside of my face, and that stuff doesn't necessarily bother me. But the fact that I have three black hairs growing out of this beauty mark that I've had my entire life now that I did not previously have does kind of bother me. And then I started to get really anxious about some childhood trauma related stuff where I was repeatedly compared to my male genetic providers, general look, and all of the stuff attached to that. I had like a really long, 3 or 4 hour long journal writing entry. No, it was longer than 3 or 4 hours. I think it was 6 hours. I sat down, I started writing. I didn't stop writing until almost 7 or 8 o'clock in the morning the following day, just parsing through some of this crap. My spouse was out of town. I didn't really have anybody to talk to about it, and even if I did, a lot of the stuff I've wrote about was stuff that I more or less already told my spouse about, so I didn't want to like rehash things necessarily. Especially considering some of the stuff that we've been going through right now is really, really heavy, and I didn't want to. Excuse me, I didn't really want to add to it. So I saved it for time with my therapist, and then I promptly missed 2 sessions with my therapist. And then, after having one session with her where I kind of gave her everything that I had, I then went on to miss another one or two just because I kept sleeping through the appointments, mostly because I was just so damn tired and I hadn't set an alarm. So I've just had a lot of stuff weighing on me that have made it really difficult with the medication changes, with the new roommates, with the current state of our house. Um, when we first moved to the city that we are currently in, my spouse broke their ankle in 3 places, and that kind of made everything that we had been planning up to that point kind of topple over. Suddenly, a lot of the things, the milestones we were supposed to make, got pushed back and kept getting pushed back because not only was the ankle break something that took about 6 months in a cast, but then it took another 5 months of physical therapy just to be able to walk properly again, and has since changed walking in general and weight bearing in general and all of these fun things. We are trying to get disability going for my spouse, but it is a process and it's not something that is going to be finished tomorrow. And there's just all these additional things on top of that. What really needs to happen is there needs to be a caseworker and or lawyer. But that's also an additional problem. We are very low income and things are really, really hard. So keep us in your thoughts, I guess. I don't really do the prayer thing. I am a pagan animist and I don't subscribe to that form of religious belief. So I would just rather you send me any positive thoughts that you have. Oh, we'll talk about that. We'll talk about that. Um, so all of this stuff is happening. Work and moving stuff and a lot of stuff that's been kind of carrying for a while. And uh just trying to find some mental peace when I'm not asleep and I'm not working. I've been kind of self-isolating because I just got to a point where I felt like I couldn't talk about anything because everything was heavy and there didn't feel to be any sort of relief I couldn't find positive things to talk about. I only wanted to try and find solutions to the hard things, and nothing was immediate, and nothing wasn't going to take a lot of work to do, and I was more or less chasing myself in circles. Um, I am, in addition to being non binary, I am also biromantic, and what I've more or less come to realize as gray ace. So, what that means for anybody who maybe not be familiar is that I only um, develop sexual attraction to another person after I've become emotionally involved and built very deep romantic ties to a person. And even before all of the medication and the surgeries came and like killed my libido entirely, um, I had a lot of trauma directly attached to sex and sexuality. So I've never been super um, driven to being involved sexually with people. And I find after doing a lot more like evaluating myself and processing my shit that a lot of the sexual stuff I did get involved with felt very performative. I was mostly just doing it to keep partners from leaving. And I'd never had a long relationship more than a couple of years until I got together with my spouse. And that has been a struggle between us for a lot of reasons, namely that they are something of a hypersexual person versus me being on the literally the opposite side of the spectrum. So it has caused a lot of struggle in our marriage. And after 10 years, things have kind of gotten to a point where we're really reevaluating things. We really truly still love each other and we want to be together. And we're trying to navigate that in addition to everything else that's going on. So, all of that. I haven't been doing a lot of like emotional intimacy things either, just because of the amount of stress that I feel like I'm under all the time. And it feels relentless. I feel like I don't have a single moment where I'm not feeling hyper vigilant. It's really hard. Um, so I've been trying to find other ways to relax and find some peace to myself, which is mostly involved video games. And that has been a thing ever since I was a kid. It was one of the few things that I could do by myself that I enjoyed. It was one of the few things that really engaged me. And I've had people question whether or not it's kind of an addiction thing. If it's one of those things where if I can't do it, I start to have withdrawals and stuff. And to that, I say, not necessarily. I've never felt like I can't get through my day without playing video games, and I have spent several days in at a time not playing games. So I don't know that it's an addiction thing so much as it is a coping mechanism that I tend to heavily lean on, and then because I have ADHD and time blindness, I get lost in it for hours. It was something that happened in college, not necessarily with video games, but then I'd be procrastinating on essays and then spending 2 days with very little sleep, very little eating, trying to blitz out whatever essay I was working on, doing any of the research that I needed to do, doing all of the sourcing to solidify my arguments, because a lot of the essays I wrote as an English major were based on research essay type stuff. So you had to be able to prove your points with research. And I'd have friends in from my classes who knew me, who were friends with me, call me and check on me because they knew who and how I behaved and performed, and they would bring me food because I wouldn't even have food in my house because I would have put off going to the store because I would have spent so much time super fixated on making sure that I put out the best possible work that I could do. And if I was anything less than a B, it shot me down, and I would spend days in kind of a depressive cycle. So, and that is not a new thing. I've had that since childhood. It was worse when I was a kid because we moved all the time. So, uh, that's how I cope. I tend to self isolate. I tend to pull back into myself. I tend to game or read or do other things rather than um, chase my thoughts. It seems like those are the two extremes. It's sleeping, it's work, it's self isolating and gaming or chasing my thoughts hours on at a time and not being able to stop hyperfixating and being hypervigilant and just being stressed out all the time. I'm on a lot of medications for that too, depression and anxiety medications. It's just a lot. So, um, that part of my relationship with my spouse has also suffered. And I take full accountability for that. Uh, so we've been working on it for the past couple of weeks, 2 weeks exactly, since they came back from Phoenix. They went down there to see their middle child graduate high school and to get a bunch of our stuff that had been in storage down in Phoenix because it was a bill that we were still paying that we really couldn't afford to pay anymore. Um, Financial support from my in laws is starting to wane. And because of that, we're trying to cut out all of the corners that we possibly can to make things a little easier. And what is happening instead is now my house is unnavigatable because all of the stuff that was in those storage units is now in my house. The movers didn't exactly do a fantastic job with how they placed things in the house. Some of the stuff is on the floor and it's not stacked onto. So entire pieces of furniture are blocking maybe one or two boxes that are on the floor. The furniture themselves are not being used to hold some of these things. Most of the furniture has been wrapped in cellophane to keep things all tight together when moving was happening. And so it's just kind of a mess. And it's really overwhelming. And me and my partner, me and my spouse, both have ADHD and all of the extra additional drama and crap that's attached to all of that. It's making things really hard. So yeah, that's the bulk of those things that are happening right now. Work is kind of hard. Relationship stuff is a little tense. Living home stuff is really really tense, and I don't really have much of an outlet to help me calm down at the end of the day or to give me any sort of real mental emotional relief other than gaming, sometimes with friends, sometimes with strangers, and um, reading. And I've even been doing a little less than that than I would normally like to do. So, um, but I have also been sitting in streams and hanging out with people and introducing people to each other. I've found a couple new readers. I've added them to the list that Neff keeps. I am pretty sure it's pinned in my Discord as well under the appropriate channel for anybody who's interested in that kind of stuff. I want to support everybody. I follow everybody, but I can't always be in everybody's streams. And in some cases, they don't necessarily read the kinds of things I like to listen to. So I might go in there and show support by lurking, but I'm not really active in chat. And Twitch has changed a lot of the way activity is marked. And um, anybody who is making ad revenue, if you don't have a certain amount of activity, you're not getting the ad revenue. And as somebody who's trying to use this as supplemental income, it's not really working the way that I want. So I'm trying to find a way to stream more, but it also eats into my time. So I'm still trying to figure that stuff out. I have a couple little projects that I'm planning to do. I have a cold table read one act play that I've been sitting on for a little while. I've been playing with the idea of doing recordings of just reading with 30-minute pauses and just playing them for like broadcasting them and then just being in chat rather than having these moments of interaction. But I don't know if that would really work well for me. Um, I don't know that I have enough of an audience yet to do that. So just working on things. But I am, you know, for anybody who has seen me in F's chat, I am a yapper. I like to talk. I like to have conversations with other people. I enjoy engaging in conversations with everyone, and I would happily do that as much as possible. It's yes, poopy. Oh, book. Hang on. No, I don't want to stretch. Damn it. See, fine, I'll do it. Okay. Who else is in here right now? Is that Ari? No. I don't even know who's all in here. Dang it. Damn it, damn it, damn it. Since I'm not in the actual chat, I can't see it unless I go into the actual chat. Hang on. I'll just do that. Just making sure that everything is on mute, because otherwise, it'll be stupid. Was it not even going to let me do it here? That's frustrating. Motherfucker. Do, 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 do. Just waiting for ads to be done so that I can keep on talking. Just want to make sure that everybody is watching and having a good time. Hopefully the ads are almost over. It's not letting me see who's in chat right now. That's stupid. Normally I can. What's that about? Twitch, stop fucking around with me, please. Are the ads over yet? Yay, the ads are over. I was trying to shout out some people that are actually here, but I can't remember. And freaking Twitch is being stupid and not letting me see who's in chat. Huzzah. I will make a list of people to shout out and have them on standby. Because we support our homies in this chat. And we like to send eyes to people who are awesome and deserve our love and attention. Because we're all in this together. Anyway. Yeah, it's because you're a good mod and I'm a terrible one. Right. So some silly shit now. Let's talk about some relatively shilly shit. Uh, when I have been able to play on the Minecraft server that I've been playing on, leg.gg, that's my comfort server. Um, I've been mostly working on trying to get my stupid base up and getting distracted by literally everything. So I've been there for a couple months now, and I haven't really been able to get anything that I've actually meant to get built done. And I really need to focus on that. But as soon as, yes, yes, Z, you can DM me a thing. I'm not gonna read it right now. Uh, helping other people out and getting distracted by little fetch questy type things, because there's a lot of like server related there's like server related currency, and there's like things you can do to that are like public works, if you will, and I find myself doing a lot of that just out of like a desire to help and participate. And um one of the things that I was doing really early on when I first got there, I made a turtle scoot farm, and I made a web farm, mostly because I like working with cobwebs. They're fun. And with one of the new potion um, effects, you can cause things to get infested. Not infested. You can cause things to get webbed, which means that when the thing that has the potion effect on it dies, they produce a web, or cobweb specifically. And I had found a farm that used one zombie and some armadillos, and um, casting or throwing a potion of infestation on the armadillos, which would be hurt by a fireplace, but not actually, or fireplace, a campfire, but not actually hurt because they would roll into balls once they saw the zombie. So they would be getting hit sounds, and because they were getting hit sounds, I guess it annoyed some people and they started to grief my farm. And this happened 3 separate times. I think you told me that, but I'll read it more later. Um, they started to grief my farms. I put in a lot of effort to get that farm to work. I was really, it was not necessarily an original design. It was one that was, the farm was put on a different part of the public works space, and somebody had griefed it then too. And they were trying to bring armadillos back, but they needed to bring them to that area first. It's not near a savanna biome, and not only that, but the server has unique um, terrain generation. So sometimes you're not even able to find an armadillo in what you would assume to be that area. Well, you told me we'll talk about it later. Um, you might have to go really far to find an armadillo, let alone two of them to bring them back to breed to do the things there. I decided to take on that responsibility at not being asked, but because I wanted to contribute to the public works. I went and I got a happy ghast. I It was gifted to me because somebody brought me a nitwit to my area, because I had intentions of having a underground exhibit at a museum that was populated by nitwits that don't have jobs, that just kind of wander around. So there would always be activity in the exhibit, except in the weird times of day when they sleep. But because it's server, I know, I'm sorry for snapping. Because the server never sleeps. They have like, um, it's not everybody sleeps. It's like 3 or 4 people, and that's enough. It's dependent on how many people are on the server. Um, that makes it so that sleeping happens, the day cycle can flip, etc. So they would always be active because they would never have any time to sleep. That's the whole idea behind that. But that's a whole separate thing. With Bedrock, you can breed a netwit. There's a one in so many chance of the villager being a nitwit rather than a standard villager. But they don't have that in Java. Java, it is strictly a you find them, and that's how that works. So if you want a nitwit, if you want more than one nitwit, nobody does, but I do in this weird scenario. you have to bring them over to wherever you want to put them. And I chose to be on an island for this as well. So people would be less inclined to just stumble upon my base and start doing weird shit in it, which tends to happen when you're on a mainland area. The server space is only so large. People start to run into each other. People start to overlap. Some people are assholes. That's just how things go. So the person who brought me the nitwit left me the ghast. I appreciated that. I kept the ghast. I used that ghast to bring armadillos and a zombie over to the public works. That was a challenge all by itself because the day cycle kept flipping, and I wasn't able to get a zombie into a boat with a pumpkin head on without also getting attacked by every other mob in the area. So it was just becoming a really hard cycle. It took me like 3 or 4 IRL days to get everything figured out. And then people kept griefing my farm, and I hadn't gotten my ghast back to my main base space yet. And what I had chose to do instead was to park it at the top of a very tall tower in the public's workspace and commission someone to take it back to my base. It was something that was available to do. The problem is that apparently my instructions were unclear, and then so they didn't bring it back. And then they were gone for like 2 or 3 weeks, and I got impatient. So I decided to take it back myself. I was going to take me probably close to three IRL hours to get it back because that's how many blocks I was away from the public works. And so I did it. I put on a podcast and I was listening to the podcast and just kind of zoning out. And I wasn't paying attention to the day cycles, and I wasn't paying attention to the fact that my ghast was not at a height that was preventing things from attacking me. I got too low to the ground. Um, a bunch of skeletons shot and killed it. And then, in a panic, as a creeper was coming towards me, I accidentally threw my sword at it. It exploded, and I lost my sword. It was a really poggy sword. I was really upset about that. So not only did I lose my ghast, but I also lost my sword. And I didn't remember what enchants were on it because I wasn't paying attention because, again, it was a gift. And the person who gifted it to me had been away for a couple months, so I hadn't been able to find out what was on it. It just became this big stupid thing. Cut forward to the future, I have another happy ghast. I name it. I use the harness that was on the first ghast. I named my ghast number 2, basically. The name number 2. So Stratus was the name of the first ghast. Stratus is a type of cloud. It was appropriate. I really liked the name that the person who gave it to me named it. So the next one was Stratus 2. I was using Stratus 2 to bring other animals to my base because the idea was going to be I was going to build something of a menagerie in addition to the museum. And I had been working on getting all of the cats, all of the wolf types, all of the cat types. I was going to start breeding all of the horse types. Are a total of 25 variants of the horses. So I needed to bring horses to my base in order to start doing that. And as I was out with my ghast looking to find horses, I found not only horses but donkeys, and I hadn't found a donkey yet, so I was really excited. I struck a horse and a donkey onto a lead, and then my ghast, and I had to go for the evening, so I put them on a fence post, and I found a hole and dug myself into it. And my first mistake was that I did not write down the coordinates because I didn't think I was going to have to. But the next time I signed on, which was 3 or 4 days later, I had completely forgotten what I was doing. I got the announcement that the daily server gift had been delivered to the post office, the in server post office. I teleported to it, and as I reached the bottom of the 3-second countdown, in the middle of the teleport, I realized, oh shit, I didn't write my coordinates down. Now I don't know where my shit is. Now I don't know where my ghast is. Now I don't know where my donkey is. Now I don't know where my horse is. I remember a little bit about the area, but I don't remember anything else. And I lost them. And I felt so stupid about it. I tried not to let it bother me, but I couldn't. I couldn't stop thinking about it. It bothered the shit out of me. So I started looking. I didn't have an elytra. Somebody finally gave me one. I told them I didn't want it. They insisted that I get it. They gave me the elytra. They gave me rockets. I'd never used an elytra before. I have yet to beat the dragon, and suddenly I have an elytra. And the server also has shulker boxes available, so I'm kind of spoiled for that also. Um, so playing vanilla after this has been a bit of a weird experience. Anyway, um, I'm looking for my ghast. I'm not finding my ghast. I probably should have turned my render and simulation distance up as soon as that happened, but I didn't, and I continued to not do it. Somebody finally offered to help me today. Um, like it's probably been a month, maybe 2 months since this happened. I still remembered the details about the space, but I still hadn't actually gotten there and found it. Somebody offered to help me today. So I, with their help, was looking in the area. They actually have a base relatively nearby to the area that I more or less remember having lost my ghast. So we were sweeping the area, and ironically, they found one of their ghasts that had gotten away, but I had not found mine. We hadn't found mine yet. So we kept looking. I had to get off for a second and put a roast into the slow cooker. Came back on. Was told, "Hey, good news, bad news. What do you want?" Oh God, I'm getting both of it. So just start. Um, I found your horse and your donkey. I did not find your ghast. And also, a creeper exploded and I lost one of the donkeys. I was like, oh, well, that sucks. I care less about the horses and the donkeys. I care more about the ghast that I still don't have. And what I'm assuming essentially happened was at one point or another, um, since the area that I had apparently parked this stuff was actually a high traffic area, people are going through that area all the time. What most likely happened was my ghast was shot down and killed, and enough time passed that the harness also despawned. So the horse and the donkey were fine. They're neutral mobs. Hostiles don't attack neutral mobs, but they do attack um, helpful mobs like the ghasts. So I lost my second ghast. And all of this can be traced back to the fact that I decided to do a public works project at the very beginning of my playing on the server. It got messed up. My ghast was still there. The person who was going to get the ghast back to me didn't follow through. They felt really guilty about that. And then I told them about this stuff in addition, and then they felt guilty again. And then someone else on the server just gifted me three dried ghast lanes, so that I can handle that and do it all over again. But I hate that it all happened. Like it just stacked on itself. And it was so avoidable. I just was so impatient and I didn't deal with it. So that was fun. Um, I really enjoy playing on a public server. Other things have happened since then. I've had some good fun. I've had some good laughs. It's just generally been a really great time. The server and the people on the server are really cool. They're really laid back people. Everybody kind of helps each other out whenever possible. They band together if there's any trolls and griefers, which happens. And there's a lot of projects that end up overlapping. I had a whole evening where I played hide and seek in somebody else's base with like 3 or 5 people. It kind of ended up sullied at the end because somebody decided to throw an arsler at up into the air for no reason whatsoever. And I wasn't about to deal with that, so I just pieced the fuck out. Um, and that person hasn't been back on the server since then. I've been told it's possibly because they were banned. Um, I don't know all the details, and it's fine if I don't know all the details. I don't care that much. They were kind of a gross person. So, um, the fact that I've had a lot more positive than negative experiences has been pretty good. That being said, um, one of the person who owns the server, the person who runs the server, I don't know if they run it out of their house. I don't know if they just pay for the service, whatever the case may be. Welcome in, Callan. I don't know any of those additional details. Um, what I do know is that they are kind of a big name in the content creating community, and they just got caught up in some very serious drama. I plan to come back to that, by the way. I'm not done. I want to keep playing. I just want you to know that. And if it keeps going past the 30 days, that's awesome. And if it doesn't, it doesn't. We will work it out. It's always interesting lurking in this because I can just appear elsewhere. Yeah, that happens, especially when you're lurking. Um, so that particular content creator was caught up in a bunch of drama, content creator drama, and the drama itself directly affected at least 30 people and probably indirectly affected a whole lot more, not counting the audience slash viewers of this content. There's been a lot of fallout over the last like 3 to 4 days. I've been watching it unfold. I've watched a couple people's streams now. I've read a lot of people's statements that they posted on Twitter because we dead name Twitter in this house. I don't have a Twitter account. I have no intention of ever getting a Twitter account ever again. As soon as Musk was attached to it, I pieced the fuck out. It was already kind of a gross place anyway, with a lot of bots and a lot of asshole people. I was happy to leave it. But a lot of content creators are still on Twitter and use that as their primary source of releasing information outside of their Discord servers. Discord is equally experiencing some gross right now. Um, so that'll be interesting to see how that unfolds with time. Or, nevertheless, uh, hang on a second. Callan, did you give me a Prime sub? Callan, did you give me a Prime sub? You have the icon next to your face. I'm assuming it's because you gave me a Prime sub. You little shit. Thank you for your Prime sub. I appreciate it. Anyway, um, I don't want to go super into it because I wasn't affected by anything other than the fact that I had consumed some of this content and hearing that some of these creators were deeply affected by some of the things that happened, and the people involved, the perpetrators, the shitty ass horrible people are people that you would not have guessed until it happened. There was a lot of manipulation behind the scenes, a lot of lying, a lot of coercion, um, general nastiness. This person was more or less trying to get to the top of the content chain so that they were the big boss, the final boss, if you will. Like everybody's content was going to be more or less linking back to this creator. And then all of the creators went to TwitchCon Rotterdam and we're all talking to each other. And what's the worst possible thing that can happen when there's one person who's being a complete shitbag and all of the people who were hit in the fallout are all in the space together. The worst outcome for the shipbag is for the shipbag to not be there. And that's exactly what happened. And all of the information came to light. And uh, needless to say, they're all better for it now. The people, the perpetrators, are no longer commi- uh, creating content at this time. I don't believe that for a fucking second, because a narcissist is only happiest when they are the center of attention. My spouse brought up an idea. Well, what if they go and they create a new community unrelated to the content, and they build up that kind of network of people again, all this other shit? I'm like, well, yeah, that might, the likelihood of that happening is very high. And spouse was like, well, they need to have somebody like acting as like the ops person, like keeping track. And I'm like, I don't know that any of them want to do that. Like everybody's going to be kind of aware, and it's not he's not such a small creator that if he were to suddenly come back into the space with a different username and start producing different content and stuff, that people wouldn't find him. Even if he were to go like full PNG tuber, if he didn't modify his voice, he would still be pretty fucking recognizable. And again, narcissist gonna narcissist, he's probably not gonna do that. He's gonna want people to fucking adore him and worship him and think he's the best shit that ever existed. So the likelihood of that happening is very, very minimal. So maybe the content creating is over. Maybe the content creating moves to a different platform. Maybe the content creating goes into a different uh, type of content altogether. Whatever happens at the end doesn't matter. What matters is that the people who are directly affected and indirectly affected by this absolute shit stain of person have reached a comfortable conclusion where everybody is reconnecting, friendships are being mended, conversations are being had that are really important, etc. And I'm happy for everybody getting the good ending, as it has been put into the community. That's the new term for talking about this thing altogether. Everybody got the good ending. Nobody wants to talk about it ever again. I respect that. That's why I'm keeping it super vague, and I'm not bringing up a whole lot about it, other than maybe one of the people involved. Whether you choose to investigate that further, feel free to do so. If you feel like sharing, talking with me about it, you can do that. Whatever the case may be, I'm just happy that things have resolved. But it does also remind me about all of the struggles, trials, and tribulations that come with content creation, and the parasocial stuff and the actual social stuff. Like a lot of these people knew this guy, had known this guy for several years, helped him move house, were going to go to his wedding, went out of their way to be involved in each other's lives. They were all really good friends. And the fact that he just turned on a fucking dime and turned out to be actually the shittiest kind of human that ever existed is upsetting. Um, and it's not just something that happens in a content creator space, it happens everywhere. I'm already an anxious person. This kind of stuff makes me more anxious. Um, it makes me like catastrophize and what if my own life, which is silly because I haven't had anything like that happen to me in a while. The stuff that happened to me was back when I lived in the Pacific Northwest, and I had a roommate who ended up being absolutely horrible and deeply affected my life financially, personally, etc. So I've had stuff like that happen to me too, and my network of friends was a lot smaller, but I ended up um, being the one that was ostracized, and I didn't even do anything wrong. I had just been painted in such a light that I couldn't convince other people of, because I also was deeply under medicated and depressed. And I had enough people around me who respectfully put up boundaries and didn't want to associate with me anymore because I was perceived as being very negative and um, complaining all the time and all this other stuff. Uh, I'm not going to say that I was blameless But I am going to say that it's like when a person tells three lies and one truth. Maybe maybe the truth is very truthy, but because there were so many lies attached, how does a person know which one is the truth unless if especially if it's just one of those nobody wants to do the work to investigate things further. And the other person telling the lies is very, very convincing. I will probably never go back to that area of the Pacific Northwest, not even to visit, because I am too worried that we would run into each other. I don't ever want to have that happen to me. I didn't exactly have a lot of people left in Seattle who wanted to associate with me anymore after all of that stuff happened. So I feel a lot of empathy. Thank you for the hydrate. Anybody who's still here and not in ads, feel free to hydrate. So it's just a lot of stuff just hanging out in my head that I don't necessarily need right now. So I thought I would come here, do a little bit of reading, do a little bit of hanging out, try to socialize. It's late enough in the night that not a lot of people want to be social, and that's fine. I'm not 100% sure. The VOD is not going to live here permanently. Thank you for coming back if you're still here. I appreciate you. As I was saying, I'm not really using Twitch as my place to store VODs necessarily anymore. I had found a workaround where I was using the highlight section to more or less keep VODs. But I'm reaching the limit of my allotted space to do that. So I'm not going to be doing that anymore. I'm going to only highlight things that might be specifically relevant to whatever I'm streaming that particular day. Couldn't find my clasp. It was driving me crazy. I could see it in the screen. I'm only going to highlight things that might be relevant to the stream itself. And if anybody wants to watch VODs and listen to me read and all that stuff, they're welcome to catch me on my YouTube channel. Same username. And watch there or listen there. And if you want to support me, I recommend either doing so through Ko-fi or through purchasing the book or books that I might be reading through my affiliate links. Those will be the best way to support me. And I appreciate any support that anybody gives, but don't feel like you have to. I never want to put anybody out financially. If it's a case of making sure that you're fed and clothed and that your lights stay on, please make sure to take care of that stuff first and foremost. I would never want anybody to help me out of detriment to themselves. Just being here is plenty of support. I appreciate you for that. And sharing me with friends and listening to me read are all more than enough for me. Are we good? Good. So, the book that I have chosen, I reached out to the authors because it is a multi-authorial book, and I asked for permission and I got it, and I'm very pleased that I got it, and I will be reading it on stream. I intend to read it to its completion. It is something of a workbook on communication and relationships, and I thought it was appropriate for Pride Month because it involves queer relationships of all flavors and kinds. And I think overall, there's a lot of really good sources to be information to be sourced from this book. So I wanted to share it with all of you. The caveats I was given by the authors was that I not share the homework sections of the book, and I intend to honor their request, and that I remind folks to check out the podcast check out the works that the authors themselves have written, and to once again remind everyone that I am not being paid by the authors. I hold no copyright over the material. I am only making money over my overall body of work. I'm not being commissioned, any of that. Um, I claim no copyright or ownership of the material. It is solely by the authors of the book, and I will read the copyright page in addition to everything else, but I did want to go ahead and once again state at the beginning and to reiterate, if you like the content, it is more or less a summary of their entire podcast. Please check out the podcast. Please check the book out. Either go to your local library, which is how I have a copy of the book presently. I have it on the interlibrary loan program. I love the interlibrary loan program. If your library does not have a book that you like, check and see what their interlibrary loan program looks like. Talk with the librarians about it. You can get pretty much any book brought to your library for a limited amount of time and be able to read it even if the library itself does not have it in stock. You can, of course, always request that your library put the book in stock, but with the way funding can sometimes be with libraries, it's very difficult to do so, which is why the Interlibrary Loan Exchange exists. So please check out your local library. Please check out the library Interlibrary Loan Exchange program. Please check out services like Overdrive and Libby that are free online ebook options that are hosted by libraries that are supported by libraries. They it's all good stuff. Support your local library. We love libraries. That's how we feel about that. And I'm going to read the book now. I'm going to change the category of the Twitch stream and I'm going to place a marker. That way I will know later where to do some editing so that we trim things down a little bit. Also, going to see about opening up On Together, which is a productivity shared game you can get on Steam. I'm not sponsored by them either. I just think the game is really cool. And I will make a category I will make a chat room specifically for that rather than hijack somebody else's and go from there. Alrighty. Give me just a second to do that. Feel free to talk amongst yourselves, should you choose to do so. As long as I can remember the name of all of the freaking authors. I'll probably just put the one author. Winston Dedeker Winston. What a lovely name. Deker Winston. It auto-corrected me. How dare you? T-E-A-L. Gay do crime as a tag. Pride Month as a tag. There we go. And save. And add a strip. There we go. Now just give me one more second. I don't know if it. You know what? No, I'm not going to do the code predictive thing because I still have fucking Minecraft open and I am AFK in there, so I'm not going to do that this time. Damn it! I'll do it next time. Okay. Shall we begin? Multiamory, Essential Tools for Modern Relationships, is copyright 2023 by Dedeker Winston, Emily Matlack, and Jace Lindgreen. All rights reserved, except for brief passages quoted in newspapers, magazines, radio, television, or online reviews. No part of this book may be reproduced in any form or by any means, electronic or mechanical, including photocopying or recording, or by information storage or retrieval systems without permission in writing from the publisher. Published in the United States by Cleese Press, an imprint of Start Midnight, LLC, 221 River Street, ninth floor, Hoboken, New Jersey 07030. Printed in the United States. Cover design by Brittany Walters. Cover illustrations by Brittany Walters and text design by Frank Wiedemann. First edition. Dedication page to Will and Kenzie, our first listeners, for paving the way, and to all of our listeners and supporters for pushing us to grow, evolve, and improve our own communication skills. You've taught us more than you'll know. Forward. I know I'm not the only one who's ever been listening to an episode of Multiamory and thought, damn, I should really be writing this down. But never, not once in my many years of being a chronic overachiever and listening to this incredibly useful relationship podcast, have I actually decided, excuse me, have I actually pulled out a notebook. I'm usually driving or walking when I'm listening, not sitting at a desk. So instead, I hope the host's detailed and savvy advice will stick around in the recesses of my brain for the next time I need it. And while some of it certainly has, unfortunately, apparently, not enough that I avoided the hot mess communication situation I depicted in my memoir, Open. So you can imagine my excitement when I found out that Multiamory was coming out with a book that summarized their most important relationship communication advice. Now, finally, their elaborate yet simple acronyms would be gathered in one printed place for me to pick up off the shelf as a reference the next time I find myself in conflict with a partner or simply wanting to invest in our relationship's long-term health. Multiamory Essential Tools for Modern Relationships is a highly curated collection of the most popular communication tools, advice, and lessons from the podcast and the brilliant hosts behind it. When I read the book you hold in your hands, I was so thrilled I underlined over half of it, which, admittedly, sort of defeats the purpose of highlighting. What excited me was not just that so much of Multiamory's excellent advice on boundaries, on listening, on doing the relationship check in method radar, and so much else, was now combined in one convenient print package, but also something perhaps even more meaningful. Here, finally, was a book where non monogamous and non, excuse me, here, finally, was a book where non monogamous and monogamous relationship advice could truly coexist. Here was a book I would find useful in periods where there are three partners and periods where there is only one partner. As of writing this sadly true, please DM me and try to woo me. Seriously, what the fuck? Here was a book I could also recommend to my monogamous friends, knowing they would feel included and helped while also learning a little something about non monogamy in the process. A relationship advice book that, for perhaps the first time, non monogamous or monogamous, queer or straight, I didn't feel in any way excluded me or anyone I love. This book for anyone, excuse me, this is a book for anyone who wants to learn how to communicate better in any aspect of their life. It is for multi-amory superfans, and it is for anyone who's never heard of the podcast and doesn't have time to listen to 8 years and over 250 episodes of archives. Over the years, Multiamory has gotten more and more inclusive of all relationship models, and this book reflects that. They aim to help us communicate and love each other better, no matter how many partners we have, whether we believe in relationship anarchy or prefer hierarchies, swinging, monogamy, or the many myriad options in between. There is an embracing of fluidity and openness to this book, and a refreshing lack of judgment. Unfortunately, when it comes to relationship advice, that is very rare. Drawing on their years of research on evidence based relationship advice and feedback, Multiamory stirs up all too often hetero and mononormative relationship advice and serves it up in a remixed way that excludes no orientation or relationship model, so long as it's consensual and respectful. This is a book that will not assume you want to get married, choose one gender to be with, find the one, or have kids, nor will it assume that there is something unevolved about you if you do not want those things. It will not assume your relationship orientation or sexual orientation has to stay fixed throughout your life, or that breaking up is a failure to be avoided at all costs. In fact, as they refreshingly repeat several times, it's okay to break up. It won't even assume you will use this book for romantic relationships. I found the chapter on boundaries particularly useful for communication with my parents, for example. This book is also a good litmus test. You know that John Waters quote, "If you go home with somebody and they don't have any books, don't fuck 'em." Well, I would add, if you're in a relationship with somebody and they refuse to look at this book or try any of its exercises together, don't fuck 'em. I already trusted my partner would be down to try anything new and useful. Unlike past long term non monogamous relationships, I like to think this one has pretty good communication. It tends to be a low conflict dynamic, and perhaps for that reason, we both easily agreed that doing a radar once a month would be an investment in the relationship's continued health. I'd heard about Multiamory's famous method for relationship check ins, radar, for many years now, and thought, also for years, I should really get around to doing that, maybe when I finally take some notes. But it wasn't until I had this physical book in my hands that I finally put a radar check-in on the calendar as a recurring monthly event with my partner. During our first session, things were expressed and communicated directly that I hadn't even realized had never been made explicit. A safe container to talk about all the hardest and most fun and awkward things had been created easily with this roadmap. Our sex life, communication about money and the future, and our sense of teamwork, none of which I necessarily had any urgent problems with, all improved immediately nonetheless after doing radar. And I'm sure that the more we use the tools in this book, the more it can only help reveal the truth and potential of what it is already there. Multiamory's wisdom will be helpful to you in good times and hard times, polyamorous or monogamous, or anything in between. Good communication, mutual respect, love, and compassion never go out of style, and neither will this book. Rachel Krantz. I realize now that I forgot to set a timer. And I don't have my watch. No, I do. I do have my watch. Give me a sec. I had forgotten that I was wearing my watch because I took it off the other day because the battery was dead. I don't normally let that happen. Nope. Multiamory, from the Latin prefix multi, meaning multiple, and the Latin root amor, meaning love. Multiamory represents multiple forms of love, everything from monogamy to non monogamy, casual dating to queer platonic, married couples to those who are single by choice, and everything between. Chapter 1. What is good? Chapter 1. What is good communication? Love, intimacy, companionship. For so many of us, the prospect of finding someone to couple and spend our days with marks the pinnacle of our relationship goals. We are pestered our whole lives by songs, TV shows, and novels about how vital it is to find a mate. Over and over again, we watch the familiar boy meets girl trope play out on the screen. These shiny stories so often center around the perils of wooing a prospective partner, overcoming obstacles, and finally getting the girl. Triumphantly, the couple eventually comes together, the credits roll, and everyone lives happily ever after in bliss and harmony. Cheerful moviegoers leave the theater without ever asking the question, what now? What happens next? What happens next isn't always lighthearted and joyous as those movies would lead us to believe. It's commonplace for misunderstandings, baggage from old loves, and miscommunication to plague almost every relationship at one time or another. If left unchecked, these issues can lead to insecurity, resentment, anxiety, and shame. The relationship may ultimately fizzle out or ignite into a big blow up and end, leaving us wondering, where did it all go wrong? We, your authors, Jace, D. Decker, and Emily, have been there too. It wasn't long ago that the three of us were navigating the murky waters of bad relationships, crappy first dates, and unmet expectations. Conflict and explosive emotions were par for the course. Maybe you'll recognize some of your own relationship mishaps in our stories. Emily says, it was March 2010. I had just returned to my final quarter of college in Cincinnati after a spring break trip home with my boyfriend. We had only been dating for 3 months, but I was head over heels in love with this guy. We had so much fun, the sex was great, and he was absolutely adorable. I had a blast showing him off to all my friends and family the previous week when we were together in Tucson. I was leaving my undergraduate program in less than a month, while he was due to stay in Cincinnati getting his master's for another year or two. I pushed the upcoming prospect of a long distance relationship out of my mind for the time being. We were great together, enjoying each other's company, and besides, he was perfect. We would make it work. What could possibly go wrong? The week after we got back, he dumped me. He said he had been contemplating doing it before our trip, but decided against it because I was obviously so excited to have him meet my friends and family. He agreed that the sex was awesome, but I was leaving soon, and we were just having fun. And most egregiously, it was clear to him that I was way more into him than he was into me. It wasn't cool or sexy to him, so it was time for the relationship to end. Needless to say, I was shocked and devastated. I was so infatuated with him that it was impossible for me to see the writing on the wall. I should have raised an eyebrow at all the non-committal answers to my friends' questions when they asked what his favorite thing was about me or how we were going to stay together once I moved away after college. I should have realized we didn't have that much in common and that most of our quality time together was spent between the sheets. But mostly, I should have recognized that we never had an honest discussion about how we really felt about one another, what we each wanted out of the relationship, and what our plans were for the future. Each of us had an internal story about the nature of the relationship that was completely opposite. He was looking for a fun short term fling, and I was looking for someone to fill the massive companion sized hole in my heart. Neither of us was wrong for what we wanted, but both of us failed to communicate our true feelings and intentions. This was certainly not the first time something like this had happened to me, and the pattern of burying my head in the sand and failing to communicate my wants and needs to my partners would continue for many years to come. Jace says, in my 20s, after being together for almost 2 years, my girlfriend and I decided to get engaged. We got along incredibly well, and it was the lowest conflict relationship I'd had up to that point. She felt the same way, so we decided to buy each other rings and planned on a long engagement before getting married. I felt like I had it all figured out. I had cracked the code of relationships and was finally getting my happily ever after. This relationship was a source of pride at how I'd managed to find someone who really got me, who was fun and social, and who encouraged me to succeed. We traveled together for 6 months and then moved to Seattle to start figuring out our careers and lives. Over the following year, things were challenging as we both tried to find work. She tried several different jobs, which didn't work out for one reason or another, and I ended up going to beauty school to become a hairstylist. We both did our best to support and encourage each other despite any challenges that arose. During those explorations, we each learned new skills, found new interests, and made new friends, but we also began to drift apart from one another. It was easy to realize after the fact, but at the time I thought everything was fine. We were having a lot of less sex, and we had more disagreements while living in a one-bedroom apartment together, but that seemed normal. It was just part of the process of settling down and establishing a life. Our communication was good when it came to talking about other people, politics, or more philosophical topics, but we struggled to effectively share our own inner journeys as we explored our careers and made friends in a new city. Growth is an essential part of life, no matter your age, but we were failing to share that growth with each other. After a year and a half of being engaged, we broke up with, "I love you, but I'm not in love with you anymore," and she moved back to the Midwest. I was heartbroken that I'd lost the relationship, but it was also a huge hit to my pride. I had been so sure that I had figured it out and had won the relationship game. I was so quick to brag to others about my success that when it all fell apart, I was ashamed and embarrassed on top of all the hurt and sadness. I had fallen into the trap of identifying with my relationship as a status symbol, a marker of success for a well adjusted member of society. The breakup took me years to recover from. D. Decker says, I literally couldn't speak. I was shivering on the front lawn of my high school, staring daggers at my friend Miguel. Friend? Boyfriend? Even that hadn't been clearly communicated between us. I don't even remember the content of our falling out that day, but I remember that I was upset, angry, sad, and feeling a billion other emotions that I needed him to hear, but my teeth were glued together. I remember his perplexed face as he asked question after question, trying to get something out of me, but I was a statue. It wasn't that I wanted to give him the silent treatment. This wasn't a punishment or manipulation. It was just the only way that I knew how to be in the face of turbulent emotions. Somewhere between my brain and my mouth, there was a blaring static, a signal too fuzzy for the muscles of my lips and tongue to even parse in the first place. Even if I could open my mouth, all that would come out would be either incoherent gibberish, a primal wail, or worst of all, a stumbling yet honest account of what I was feeling and what I wanted. For any of the above to escape, excuse me, for any of the above to escape would usher in a fate worse than death, so my jaw remained wired shut. Some version of this interaction plagued every subsequent adult relationship I had. Over time, I learned to fine tune it. It turns out that emotional freeze outs and verbal shutdowns work nicely for the moments when you do want to punish or manipulate someone. This communication approach set me up for a real bind. I had to avoid upset feelings and relationship conflicts at all costs. The only way to accomplish this was to find a partner who could provide what I wanted and who could make me feel safe and loved. I couldn't reliably express what I wanted or ask for what would make me feel safe and loved, so I had to hope against hope that maybe in my next relationship I'd finally find someone who already knew all this information without me having to tell them. This slowly became my definition of compatibility, not based on personalities, communication styles, or alignment of life goals and values, but on something more elusive and impossibly magical. Magic is an essential line item on the bill of goods we're all sold, assured that these are the only ingredients needed for the love of a lifetime. I recall plenty of magical mind reading and grand romantic gestures in the Disney films and rom coms of my youth. What's harder to recall? In any scene where the princess vulnerably asks the prince if they can set up a weekly date night, we have each had our fair share of breakups, breakdowns, and breakthroughs in our personal relationship journeys. At some point, each of us had a similar thought, one that you may have had yourself. There has to be a better way. There has to be something out there that could solve these problems, or at least help to avoid having so many of them. There had to be some tip or trick that would help break bad habits and move us toward healthier and happier partnerships rather than doing the same thing over and over again in the hope that it would someday get better. The Multiamory podcast origin story. In the midst of these negative relationship routines and habitual toxicity, the three of us yearned for something different. Jace and Emily met not long after she moved to Los Angeles and spent 2.5 years in a traditional monogamous relationship. After a brief separation, they realized they were interested in exploring what other people had to offer emotionally and sexually, yet wanted to maintain the intimate companionship that they still had with each other. It was the decision to break away from traditional monogamy and a foray into polyamory that eventually led Jace and Emily to meet Decker, who was already in the midst of her own polyamorous journey with another partner. We all stumbled through many exciting and scary firsts, meeting metamors, our partners' other partners, experimenting with triad and quad relationships, and many other different, subversive, and novel ways of relating. It was during this time, back in 2014, that the Multiamory podcast was born. We knew there were many people besides those in our social spheres who were also practicing non monogamy, but we didn't know just how prevalent it had become. Polls suggest at least 1 in 5 Americans has practiced some form of consensual non monogamy in their lifetime. Yet there were still few resources available at the time on how to conduct healthy polyamorous relationships. Additionally, many traditional relationship advice shows were advocating incredibly toxic and unhealthy practices, and sadly, many still do today. Most of the relationship advice we found was based solely on traditional mainstream views of how relationships should look and geared primarily toward people seeking a monogamous long term commitment. We craved information that dared to explore new ways of thinking about relationships with an emphasis on psychology, neuroscience, and research. Planning, writing, and recording weekly episodes of the podcast led us to research from other leaders in the relationship field, and we began crafting unique tools to better our own relationships as well as those of our budding listenership. As time went on, we began to notice how many of the things we were discussing in the polyamorous space echoed many of our experiences when we were monogamous. We heard from listeners in traditional relationships that they were also finding value from hearing about a polyamorous approaches to crafting relationships. Our deeply non monogamous podcast started to shift to including all forms of love, from consciously chosen monogamy to ethical polyamory, queer platonic friendships, chosen family, relationship anarchy, and more. If you aren't familiar with some of these terms, don't worry. The point is, there are a lot of different ways to do relationships. Our community grew, and we were able to gain wisdom and feedback from others whose experiences were different from our own. We learn right along with our listeners every day, and we have continued to adjust and fine tune the ways in which we approach and experience communication in our own relationships. The landscape of our own bonds with one another has changed over the course of creating the podcast. Emily and Jace are no longer in a romantic relationship, yet Jace and Decker remain in a polyamorous relationship together. Emily, on the other hand, has been happily monogamous with her partner Josh for many years. Our collective years of experience with many different types of relationships and making all kinds of huge mistakes along the way have been instrumental in the ongoing health of our individual connections as well as the ongoing partnership between the three of us. However, you choose to identify your romantic relationships, the tools outlined here can enact meaningful and positive change. There is no shortage of relationship advice bombarding us in the form of podcasts, books, blogs, articles, counselors, and week long retreats. Some of it is fabulous, and some is surprisingly unhealthy. When something piques our interest, we've taken a closer look into that advice to see if it will resonate well with our audience. Through trial and error, we found that so much of the wisdom out there is often difficult to integrate into one's life in a practical way, or it's simply geared toward only one specific type of relationship. Our goal has been to tailor communication tools so that they are effective no matter what type of relationship you are in, simply simple enough to understand and easy to remember and apply in your daily life. If we can make it into an acronym somehow, even better. Our hope for readers of this book is the same hope we hold for everyone who listens to the podcast. Whether you are monogamous, polyamorous, swinging, casually dating, or if you just want to do relationships differently, we hope you can use these tools and lessons to have better relationships with others and with yourself. We see you and we are here for you. Now, let's dive into some key concepts that will be important for the journey ahead. Why should we strive for good communication? Good communication is essential for healthy relationships. Without it, we face the constant struggle of our own internal stories about why our partners thinks and behaves the way they do, and we are subject to our partner's internal stories as well. It can become extraordinarily irritating to play guessing games about why a partner said something a certain way, why they seem upset, or what it is that they want out of their lives in the next 5 years. Yet most media outlets tell us that an ideal union occurs when you and your partner are so well matched that you intuitively know exactly what each other is thinking. In reality, learning to read your partner's mind is an impossible goal, resulting in hurt, frustration, and failure, and we argue that it should be stricken from the world's lists of relationship goals. Instead, we should be seeking more effective ways to listen to our partners, ask sincere questions about their state of being, and cultivating compassion for the things that bring about painful emotions. Our partners evolve and change throughout the course of a relationship just like we do. Their thoughts and feelings about things that were important to them when you began your relationship may develop and shift over time. We are all fluid and dynamic creatures and can't expect our own needs or the needs of our partners to stay static throughout the trajectory of the relationship. The ability to communicate those fluctuating needs, thoughts, desires, and feelings is key. But don't just take our word for it. In 2021, researchers Terry Conley and Jennifer Piedmont from the University of Michigan published a paper combining the results of 5 studies of couples in different types of non monogamous relationships. When analyzing the collected results, they found that good communication skills were one of the most significant factors in predicting the relationship satisfaction. As they wrote in the paper, those who use more effective communication strategies and know their partners better have better outcomes. Our communication patterns can clearly show the health of our relationships too. Dr. John Gottman and the Gottman Institute can make wildly accurate predictions of whether or not a couple will break up by simply observing the couple discuss a conflict for 15 minutes. While many other things can drastically affect relationship satisfaction, including money problems, environmental stress, positive or negative interactions, and individual personality traits, communication is one of the most vital areas that can make or break a relationship. What is a relationship? In order to talk about improving relationships, it is worth taking a moment to clarify what we mean by relationship. For most people, the word relationship brings to mind dating, romance, and sex. Yet we have relationships with every single person we come into contact with, some more brief than others. You have a relationship with your mail carrier, with your neighbor, with your family members, and with your coworkers. You even have a relationship with us by reading this book or listening to our podcast. Clearly, these connections are not all the same. Some may be much closer than others. Some may involve physical touch. Some may be more intentional, and others may be circumstantial. The tools we present in this book are meant to improve every relationship, which means they don't have to be limited to just romantic or sexual relationships. In the following chapters, we often use romantic couples as an example, and we usually refer to the people involved as partners, but these tools can be applied to any intentional relationship. You may not sit down for a relationship check in conversation with your mail carrier, but you certainly could with your sister or a close friend. Communication, excuse me, communication is the lifeblood of any close partnership, whether that involves physical intimacy, romance, or none of the above. At the end of the day, we get to choose which relationships we want to enhance and cultivate. and we get to work together with others to determine how we want to foster the relationship, regardless of their external category. We like how philosopher and author Carrie Jenkins puts it. What I call eudaimonic or good spirited love can be thought of as a creative project, a collaborative telling of a new story. It is not about the passive acceptance of existing scripts. As you read the tools in this book, be sure to spend some time thinking about the various relationships in your life to evaluate which tools may be a good fit. What is relationship success? This may seem like a simple question, but it is actually one of the core challenges in relationship research and education. Traditionally, when it came to measuring the success of a romantic relationship, the only metric used was time. The longer the relationship, the more successful it is. We tend to think that if a relationship lasts a long time, it's a success, and if it only lasts a short time, then it is a failure. Based on this very narrow definition of success, we can end up glorifying a 50-year relationship full of abuse, lying, manipulation, and general misery over a 6-month relationship based on honesty, compassion, and joy. Don't get us wrong. Having a long lasting, caring, happy relationship is fantastic, but when we get too focused on duration, we can lose sight of what truly makes relationships healthy. Our culture encourages us to become goal oriented in our intimate relationships. We may focus on hitting specific milestones or markers of commitment rather than questioning whether the relationship itself is a positive influence in our own life as well as our partners. Do you know someone who perceives their relationship this way and is hyper focused on their goals of getting to the next step, whether moving in together, getting married, or having a baby? They may get short lived fulfillment from pursuing their goals only to eventually have a rude awakening once they achieve them. Sadly, their enthusiasm for the relationship may dissolve once they don't have another goal to pursue. Author Amy Garin calls this phenomenon the relationship escalator and argues the relationship escalator is one of many social scripts, customs for how people are supposed to behave, and how we should think or feel in certain contexts, situations, or interactions. These customs benefit many people, but not always, and not everyone. She also spoke on how the one size fits all escalator mentality that many counselors, books, and podcasts adhere to can ultimately harm those who aren't in pursuit of that type of relationship. Assuming that the traditional relationship escalator is the only type of important intimate relationship that people should have or want reinforces the strong social privilege available to only couples on the escalator. While we agree that it's important to have personal and shared goals, we strive to help listeners, clients, and ourselves refocus relationship pursuits by bringing a spirit of inquiry. 8 billion people cannot fit under one way of living, says Michelle High, non monogamy advocate and creator of the Polyamorous While Asian Instagram account. While it can feel daunting, it's helpful to remember that because each of us has decades of mono and amatonormative programming to sift through, relearning will not happen overnight. Everyone's timeline is different, and the least we can do is to remain actively curious. Why are you in the relationships you're in? If no one cared or judged you, what would your relationships with others and with yourself look like? Are these structures serving you, or are you serving the idea of these structures? What the heck does amatonormative mean? If you've never heard this term before, don't worry. The term amatonormativity was coined by Dr. Elizabeth Brake to describe the societal pressure to pursue a romantic, sexual, long term monogamous relationship, especially marriage, and the assumption that everyone wants the same thing. In her writings, she uses the term to point out how this assumption minimizes and invalidates people who do not fit that one mold, such as asexual, aromantic, or non monogamous people, and causes us to treat single people as incomplete and somehow lacking. A similar term, mononormative, is used for the assumption that monogamous relationships are the only valid or worthwhile relationships, and that anyone who isn't in one should be seeking to enter one. What is a healthy relationship? When we talk about healthy relationships, what do we mean? Loveisrespect.org, a national resource to prevent abuse and intimate partner violence, uses the acronym REST, REST, to describe healthy relationships. REST stands for respect, equality, safety, and trust. We believe these four words should be the baseline for what a healthy relationship looks like. In other words, both partners consistently respecting each other, working to create an equal and fair partnership, feeling safe with their partner, and being trustworthy are not only relationship goals, but the bare minimum we should expect from our relationships. Sadly, there are many relationships out there that do not meet this standard. If you're in a relationship where one or all of these pillars are missing, we encourage and advocate for you to examine your relationship and see if it is causing more harm than good. As we say all the time on the show, it's okay to break up. On the other hand, if your relationship has hit a snag that you can't seem to untangle, if you and your partner feel apathy creeping in, or if you experience a myriad of little fights and want to break an unhealthy pattern, the tools in this book will help steer you back in the right direction. Our goal is to give you lasting advice on how to alter the way in which you connect with your partners on a fundamental level and infuse more support, kindness, affection, and love. Basically, all the good stuff that can makes relationships a joy. Ultimately, healthy communication can turn a decent relationship into an amazing one and can help us to respectfully end or change our unhealthy relationships so we can focus more on ones that truly lift us up. What to expect in this book? This book has taken on many different iterations in the writing process. Initially, it was going to be a companion to the entire Multiamory episode catalog, literally impossible to do when you're producing new episodes every week. Then it was going to be a manual solely focused on Radar, our template for creating monthly relationship check ins with partners, which ended up as Chapter 7. Where we've arrived is a book that's part companion and part toolkit. We've tried to design this book to be as approachable as possible, whether you've listened to every single Multiamory episode, only a handful, or none at all. And just like our podcast, you may find it best to read straight from the beginning to end. Excuse me, let me try that sentence again. And just like our podcast, you may find it best to read straight from beginning to end, or you may find it more useful to check the table of contents and jump around to the tools that will be the most effective for your current situation. Let's look at what you can expect as you make your way through this book. Roadmap to the tools. Here is a sneak preview of each tool you'll encounter. Chapter 2, the Triforce of Communication. Here's where you'll learn how to meta communicate and get what you actually need out of conversations through 3 specific, easy to use communication approaches. Chapter 3, Spewers and Chewers. This chapter lays out the fine points of internal and external processing and will help you determine your personal processing style, including strategies to use if your partner's style is similar or different from your own. Chapter 4, Microscripts. In this chapter, you'll learn how to create short, predetermined interactions between you and your partner to interrupt old patterns, diffuse tension, create new habits, and act as a shortcut to healthier communication. Chapter 5, Boundaries. We dispel common misconceptions about what boundaries are and when they should be used and provide an exercise for determining your own true boundaries. You'll also learn how to use our SELF tool to create actionable, unilateral ways to enforce your boundaries with others and, even more importantly, with yourself. Chapter 6, Repair Shop, SHOP. You will learn a process for coming back together after conflict so that a disagreement or argument can actually encourage growth rather than destruction and resentment. Chapter 7 Radar. This chapter will cover radar, a check in formula for regularly maintaining the health of your relationships. This framework has been life changing for many of us and will help you and your partner collaborate on creating your ideal relationships. Extra tools. This is a collection of short summaries of additional tools created by others that have been instrumental to our own communication practices, as well as a few more of our own tools and concepts. References. Any books, studies, or other resources we mention throughout this book can be found in the references section. We also provide more details about all our special guests so you can look them up and support their work. Personal stories. We've done our best to include stories that involve real life application for each tool. In addition to our personal experiences, we also share narratives based on real world experiences told to us by our listeners. Most stories use pseudonyms and may have details changed or have multiple stories blended together in order to preserve privacy. Multiple relationship styles, multiple viewpoints. Over the years, our scope has broadened as we strive to create relationship resources that are as inclusive as possible. We'll restart that in a second because I apparently have gone over time by 17 minutes because I turned off the vibration on my watch. So I'm going to close it for a sec. I'm going to fix that. And I'm going to start the timer for a 5-minute break. right, 5 minutes have passed. Let us continue. And take a quick sip of my water, and I encourage everyone to do the same. I also forgot to put a text about the freaking book. Pro streamer. Tell you what. Shut up. You. I'm not jealous. You shut up. How much is the mending worth? Is it like $40 gold or 40 emeralds? Is it some stupid number for emeralds? Because then I'm not as jealous. Hang on, I didn't catch that. 18. That's not too bad. Okay. Change the orientation. It'll be nice. Hopefully it will. There. 4 days of rerolls for it. Ooh, that sucks. Nope. I keep hitting the freaking stopwatch and not the actual timer. Okay. Start the clock. Multiple relationships, styles. Let me try that again. Multiple relationship styles, multiple viewpoints. Over the years, our scope has broadened as we strive to create relationship resources that are as inclusive as possible. We aim to acknowledge and incorporate some of the additional complexities of non monogamy alongside concerns felt in monogamous relationships. Throughout this book, you'll find examples and anecdotes from a mix of different relationship viewpoints, including polyamory, various different forms of non monogamy, as well as traditional monogamy. When we use the word partner, that may refer to a spouse, lover, best friend, an exclusive romantic connection, or just one of many people in a polycule. Being exposed to different relationship practices may bring up challenging feelings. For you hardcore polyamorous folks, it may mean setting aside judgment towards monogamous relationships and trying to generate some empathy. For monogamous folks, this may mean examining any feelings of alarm, discomfort, or intrigue that come up when presented with non mainstream ways of relating. For heterosexual and cisgender readers, that might mean uncomfortable exposure to challenges that you may not have faced in your own life. We want to create a world that has room for many different relationship formats with many different types of people, and we hope that you can help us in that pursuit. As Amy author of Stepping Off the Relationship Escalator, says, important, personal, intimate relationships have never, ever been one size fits all. Recognizing and embracing this reality of diversity simply makes you realistic. We encourage you to give yourself the chance to learn from relationships and people whose lives and loves may look very different from your own. With that in mind, this is not a book about polyamory, and we will not cover subjects like how to open up your relationship for the first time, navigating jealousy, or where to find potential partners. There are many wonderful books out there on the subject, including Dee Decker's first book, The Smart Girl's Guide to Polyamory. The tools and tips in this book apply to any kind of relationship and have been thoroughly tested by us and our listeners in both monogamous and non monogamous partnerships. Special guests. The work of some of our favorite people in the relationship betterment field is discussed often on our podcast and will be referenced throughout this book. While we've created some of our own tools from scratch or changed an existing tool into something more practical and comprehensive for our audience, there are also many tools from others that we discuss and utilize on a regular basis. In addition to our own experiences and the knowledge we've gained from our clients and listeners over the years, our guests each add their own perspectives, and we hope you enjoy getting to learn from their insights. You will find quotes throughout this book from many other educators, writers, researchers, and therapists who regularly use our tools and others who have inspired us. Takeaways and homework. This is an important one. This will be the stuff that we do not read in the book while we're reading it together on this stream. That being said, I encourage you to look into it if you get this book for your own reading. Takeaways and homework. There's a lot of great information in this book and floating around in the relationship advice space, but it goes to waste if we don't find specific ways to incorporate that knowledge into our individual lives. At the end of each chapter, you'll find a list of key concepts to remember, as well as a quick reference guides when applicable. These can act as a cheat sheet for when these tools get to put to the test in real life. We've also included homework at the end of each chapter in the form of journal prompts and exercises to further drive home each concept and provide a pathway for applying them to your relationships. So we will do takeaways, but we will not do homework. That is at the respect of the authors. They asked us not to do that, so we will not do that. But we will do takeaways, just not the homework. Bonus, a grab bag of tools. There's a fun bonus in the last chapter, a big old grab bag of tools, tips, guidance, and other wisdom that we found particularly useful. Some of it comes from us, but most of it comes from other great thinkers and educators that have inspired us over the years. If we mention a tool or concept that you're unfamiliar with, it's likely there is a more thorough explanation in the extra tools chapter. We'll include information in each section as to where you can find more in-depth details regarding each tool. Before we begin, we cannot overstate the power of incorporating intentional check-ins, an understanding of your process style, and clear meta-communication into your relationships. But we also don't want to set up the expectation that these tools are a cure-all. Sadly, this is not a book of magic spells. We'll start working on a grimoire of our own once we've launched our next podcast, Multi-Sorcery. These are some important truths to bear in mind as you begin applying these tools to your relationships. Even the best communication tool in the world can't force someone to communicate if they don't want to. We don't have any secret manipulative devices to get your partners to open up and share their vulnerabilities. We can't promise that if you just use this one weird trick, your partner will always be forthright and honest. There's no special text message template to guarantee your new crush will finally text you back. However, the content of this book will help you create the conditions that make it easier to open up and share the scary, tender stuff. easier to be honest even when it's awkward, and easier to let go when someone isn't communicating the way you'd prefer them to. Someone who refuses to communicate is probably not just being stubborn for the sake of stubbornness. An aversion or inability to communicate can often be an indicator that the person doesn't know how to talk about a particular topic. They may have never had this kind of conversation modeled for them. This particular subject may have been taboo where they grew up. They might be too scared or overwhelmed by the topic. They may feel too much hurt and trauma regarding the topic, so much so that they don't think they can open their mouth without falling apart. They may think the topic will not be received in a gentle or compassionate way. There are a million reasons why communication is difficult in general, and our own individual experiences, preferences, and hangups complicate it even further. If there is someone in your life who refuses to communicate, get curious, and to the best of your ability, get compassionate. At the end of the day, though, you can't do someone else's personal growth for them. Even the best communication tool in the world can be misused and abused. We've heard countless stories of people giving up after trying all kinds of techniques: nonviolent communication, countless forms of couples counseling, active listening, and even some of our own tools. Usually, the negative experience is tied to a partner's bad behavior, using an allegedly healthy communication technique to perpetuate unhealthy patterns of control. Unfortunately, this is all too easy to do. Even with good intentions, any tool can be misunderstood or misapplied, leading to confusion or hurt feelings. At worst, a particular communication framework can be used intentionally to justify making unfair demands, belittling a partner, or gaslighting. There is even precedent that suggests otherwise healthy communication tools or couples therapy may make an already abusive relationship even worse. How can we prevent this? To start, focus on connecting to your deeper purpose for wanting to communicate at all. Chances are high that you're craving safety, security, closeness, understanding, compassion, or collaboration. All good things that are fundamental to healthy relationships. Let that be your guiding light. And if the way a tool is being used is getting in the way of that, either customize or set it aside for now. You might also consider consulting individually with a trusted professional, such as a counselor or coach, to help determine if you may be in an unhealthy dynamic. Even the best communication tool in the world can fail to fix incompatibilities or rescue a dysfunctional relationship. The sad reality is that many people don't start thinking about communicating intentionally until there is already a backlog of problems and a track record of bad habits. That doesn't mean that it's too late to make a change, but the path ahead may require a lot of hard work. That being said, it's unlikely there is a single tool, book, therapist, or approach that can miraculously erase set in patterns overnight, and be wary of anyone that makes such claims. Again, we want to encourage you to enlist the help of a trusted friend, family member, or therapist to help explore the possibility that your relationship may not be serving you anymore. Sometimes it's best to end the relationship and appreciate it for all the lessons it has taught you while moving forward in search of something healthier and less fraught with conflict and pain. If you are starting from a place of knowing that your relationship is healthy enough to be worth improving, then congratulations. You are already much more likely to build an amazing, life affirming relationship. We love research, but research has its limits. On the show and in this book, we strive to include as much evidence based advice and research findings as we can. While not all relationship advice has to be empirically supported by hard science in order to be valid, looking at research can help answer some important questions. Is this common relationship advice actually bullshit? Or is there a grain of truth to it? Are there factors influencing my relationships, communication, or mental health that I'm not even aware of? In a landscape now inundated with competing opinions about what truly makes relationships work, studies, surveys, and various forms of analysis can help to draw a distinction between the helpful and the unhelpful. We try to incorporate the best of both worlds, tried and true relationship wisdom combined with evidence based approaches. However, even research is limited. Historically, researchers have recruited study participants from a homogeneous population of undergrad students, often wholly excluding people of color, women, people with disabilities, non binary, trans, and queer folks, people in consensually non monogamous relationships, happily single people, willingly unmarried people, and the list goes on and on. We are seeing this start to shift in recent years, but remember that some research findings may not be completely applicable to everyone. In addition, directions of correlation and causation in research can often be sensationalized and misconstrued, usually by the media. This pops up in relationship research all the time. A particular study may find that cooking and eating dinner together with a partner on a regular basis is correlated with higher average household income. What usually happens next is that a media outlet will pounce on the study and publish a headline to the tune of "Making dinners for your girlfriend if you want to be rich." The problem is this fictional study hasn't established that cooking dinner together causes the household income to rise. It only establishes that these two things are associated with each other. Further research is needed to clarify what's actually going on here. Do people who eat dinner together have a more calm, stable home life? And that's what contributes to better job performance and thus higher income? Or do these people already have a higher income, which enables them to have the extra resources necessary to buy good ingredients, in addition to having the free time to dedicate to cooking? We encourage you to be on the lookout for correlation causation mix ups in any research that you encounter in articles, blogs, clickbait news stories, or even daily conversation. Good research is uncovering new findings every day, as well as recognizing its own limitations. In time, some of the research we cite in this book may be contradicted or replaced by newer studies. Beware of any claims that something is scientifically proven. There is no such thing, and everything is subject to revision and reanalysis. This is fundamental to the scientific process, and that is a good thing. Time for another break. All right. I think we're going to do 30 more minutes. And then we're going to read out. I haven't figured out who to read out yet. Who to read out to yet, considering it's late and there aren't a whole lot of readers going on right now that I feel ready to send us to. So I'm thinking about sending us to either an ASMR person or a crap, what was the other thing? Like music or something. Something chill, something relaxed, so that nobody is getting jarred out of the stream. If there's anybody you suggest we raid into for the end of the stream, feel free to drop them into the chat. But I have one or two people already in mind if there's nothing that anybody wants to suggest. Just wanted to put that out there. And I also wanted to mention, I need to take that off for a sec, that touching back again to one of the earlier statements I said about at the beginning before we started reading about how you need to support your local library. At least in the US right now, we are in the summer reading program months. They usually run from the beginning of June all the way until August 15th. I mention this because this is some of the most active times at the local library, because during the rest of the year, a lot of students are using the libraries, and that's about it. But when the students are done during the summer, there's times that the library can be almost empty. There aren't a lot of people using the library. So the summer reading program became a way to bring readers back into the library, encourage people to read, even when it's not for learning specifically for a class or studying for a paper or anything like that, that you can read for enjoyment, even if it's fictional, if it's non-fictional, if it's newspapers, if it's magazines, if it's listening to ebooks and all of the like. So the summer reading program began as a way to encourage that. In a lot of cases, there would be activities, especially for younger folks, to encourage them to want to read. And one of the ways that people did that was by doing, or one of the ways that libraries did that was to offer things like prizes. Pretty much every single library has a summer reading program of some type. So I encourage you to go to your local library to figure out what their summer reading program is and to enroll. It shows the library that people are interested in the library services. It shows the public that it's okay to read for fun and not just because you're studying for something. It encourages people in your lives, be they children or coworkers or friends or family. It gives them a good model of that it's okay to read, that it's enjoyable to read. It's one of those things that less and less people are actively pursuing and choosing to do. So get involved with your public library. Find the reading program. My particular library is got a program. They use a web app. I want to say it's called Beanstalk, and I can definitely type correctly with my thumbs and fingers. Beanstack. I think that is the actual title of it. Beanstack. So I'm going to link that in chat really quick. Assuming I can. Bing, bing, bing. There we go. Flicky, flicky. Now, not everybody's library is going to be on Beanstack. The reason I bring it up is that it's a way for you to track um, digitally, because some people really enjoy being able to track digitally rather than have like a physical copy of what their reading goals are, etc. But a lot of libraries, local libraries, will use Beanstack, and I would encourage you to look. I am already part of mine, and give me a second to log back in. If it'll even let me. There we go. Oh dear. I hope it's based on my username and not my email. Huzzah. I am a part of 2 Beanstack reading trackers right now. I'm attached to the one that's attached to my local library, and I'm attached to a national one. It's called Read to Feed by the by Heifer International. And I'm going to read a little bit about that real quick, and then we'll get back to the last bit of the book, or last part of the book that we will be reading and stream today. Read to Feed by Heifer International, June 1st, 2026 through August 15th, 2026. Change the world one page at a time. With Read to Feed, the more you read, the more you feed. We are so glad you are helping us in our mission to end hunger and poverty. When we all work together, big things can happen. Readers track their own books, earn badges, and unlock donations by meeting reading milestones. For every 2,000 minutes read, a flock of chicks will be donated. Log your reading and complete the activities in your Beanstack app or on the web. Collect badges and finish activities while you learn about Heifer, the organization, and how to help people around the world. Happy reading. Heifer International is a non-profit that helps families lift themselves from poverty through farming. Heifer provides families with animals, seeds, training, and more. I will be tracking this book specifically through both of my Beanstack app loggers. Right now, we are on page 32 out of 310. So 1% of the book, give or take. And I will be logging that in Beanstack. If you are listening to me read, that still counts. If you don't intend to go and get the book yourself, you can still track the reading time that I do out loud in apps like Beanstack or your local library. You just have to track it a little differently. It becomes minutes read or minutes listened rather than pages read. So I encourage you to please use Beanstack or your local library, their tracking app, whatever thing they use, and to, once again, get involved with your public library. Do it. Do it, please, for me, for your library, for the betterment of mankind. I would offer to add folks with me on Beanstack, but the caveat, of course, is it uses my birth name. I don't feel comfortable sharing my birth name with most people online. So because of that, I use Storygraph. Storygraph is also listed on my About page. You can follow me on Storygraph. You can track alongside with me on Storygraph. And if enough people are interested, I can start a reading project together. That way we can track it together, we can talk about it through Storygraph, because they have that as an option. So if you do decide to do Storygraph instead of Beanstack, feel free to reach out to me on that. Same username, Wayward Bard. That is my username pretty much everywhere online. If you find that username, you will likely find me. If you know me in real life and you want to follow me on Beanstack, you can definitely do that. But also, don't share my name. Don't share any information about me. Please respect my privacy in that way. Right then, let me go ahead and pick up where we left off and finish up for the night. I almost forgot to put it back on. Here we go. Good research is uncovering new findings every day, as well as recognizing its own limitations. In time, some of the research we cite in this book may be contradicted or replaced by newer studies. Beware of any claims that something is scientifically proven. There is no such thing, and everything is subjective to revision and reanalysis. This is a fundamental to the scientific process, and that's a good thing. I realized that I read that part already, but I read it again because I didn't realize until I started reading it. Remember to customize. There is no one size fits all communication tool, which is why we encourage everyone to call on their inner creative forces and customize a tool to fit the person you are today and the relationship you are in today. You know your strengths and weaknesses, and you probably know your partner's strengths and weaknesses as well. Some tools in this book may feel clunky and inorganic until you find ways to make them your own. Most of this book is written with intimate partnerships in mind, but we encourage you to find ways to use these tools with family, friends, coworkers, or in any relationship where you're seeking better communication. Ultimately, any tool you use should be serving the real purpose and longing underneath it. Like we said above, getting clear on your purpose will give you clues about the best ways to customize any particular tool. Don't weaponize. Please don't misuse these tools. We created them with a foundation of kindness and compassion, serving the ultimate purpose of making it easier to listen, understand, and connect deeply with the people you love. However, as we stated before, many communication tools can also be manipulated and twisted to cause harm rather than help. If you find this starting to happen, or a particular tool isn't working for you, engage your creativity to see if you can customize it to a better fit. If it's still not working, scrap it altogether. We won't be offended. There are thousands of techniques, approaches, tips, and tricks for improving communication and handling relationship friction. We would rather you explore and find what works for you and the relationship you are in today, rather than force one of our tools to work when it clearly is not. Go forth. We are so excited to share this book and our customizable tools with you now. While we truly appreciate those of you who are fans of our work, you certainly don't need to be one of our listeners to get something out of this book. Our hope is that regardless of your background and relationship configuration, you will find these tools to be a fantastic jumping off point for you and your partners in times of struggle, apathy, and even moments of joy. We strive to go beyond the conversational tips, tricks, and quick fixes of other relationship advice models and instead dig deeper into where your values, ethics, and beliefs lie to help you turn them to them for guidance when situations get challenging. If at first you don't succeed, try not to get discouraged. We've personally used these tools hundreds and hundreds of times, and while we still have moments of communication mishaps, they have become less frequent the more we have practiced communicating intentionally. There will always be unexpected moments when it comes to engaging in intimate relationships, but often those challenges can be a catalyst for each of you to break through into new levels of understanding and affection. So if you are ready, strap in, hold on, and get ready to elevate your relationships in ways you've never thought possible. Now we are switching to the next chapter. We are skipping over the homework for this chapter. It is on page 34. I encourage you, if you have a copy of the book or can get an access to a copy of the book, that you do look at it and you use it to the best of your ability. Chapter 2, The Triforce of Communication. Go meta in your conversations. Taylor and Sebastian had a solid relationship, but Sebastian's new job was starting to take a toll on them both. Sebastian often needed to work overtime late into the night, sometimes even through the weekend. Taylor was proud of Sebastian for finally getting this new position, and he did his best to be supportive and understanding, even when they had to put their own date night plans on hold. But there was one night that Taylor finally hit his limit. After several consecutive days of Sebastian needing to postpone or cancel their plans to meet up, Taylor was feeling lonely and frustrated. It was getting harder and harder to listen with compassion whenever Sebastian unpacked his day with him over the phone. He knew he wanted to talk about his frustrations, and he was hoping to get some acknowledgement and empathy from Seb in return. After Sebastian got home that night, Taylor came over for a late dinner. He was eager to discuss his feelings with Sebastian. Taylor sat down at the dinner table, took a breath, and began. Listen, there's something that's been on my mind for a while. I'm happy for you getting this new job, but this past week not being able to see you as much has been incredibly hard for me. Taylor continued, but Sebastian was stone-faced. He couldn't believe what he was hearing. They had already talked at length about what this job would mean for Sebastian's life, how it would help him finally get out of debt, and they had even strategized on how to make the transition smoother. Seb gritted his teeth until Taylor had finished speaking his piece. I've already made clear that I'm not putting in overtime for the rest of the week, he said tersely. And I've been doing my best to text you during the day and stay in touch. We both acknowledged this would be a tough transition. What else do you want from me? Taylor was taken aback. This was not the response he was expecting. I don't know, he said. I don't think you need to do anything. I'm just saying that it feels lonely sometimes. I could try calling you more often on my lunch breaks, Sebastian offered, exasperated. But I can't take a huge chunk out of my workday. I have a hard enough time doing everything I need to do as it is. No, that's not what I'm asking for, Taylor insisted. I want you to be able to focus on your work. I'm not asking you to change that. But all this overtime has an impact on me too, and I don't feel like you see that. Of course I see that, but there really isn't anything else I can do about it. The purposes of communication. All communication has a purpose. Sometimes the purpose of one's communication is abundantly clear. I'm telling you this because I want to come clean. I have to take my mom to the doctor today. Do you mind picking up the kids for me? I'm sorry for how short I've been toward you in our recent conversations. I've been under a lot of stress at work. Multiamory's the book is the best thing since sliced bread, and I'm going to tell everybody about it. But other times, the purpose of communication can be murkier. In Taylor and Sebastian's story, neither one of them had a clear grasp on what the actual purpose of the conversation was. Taylor may not have known exactly what he was seeking from Sebastian, but he knew that it was not what Seb was giving him. Sebastian had an idea of what he thought Taylor wanted, but felt frustrated and powerless to help him. Not only were these two unclear about each other's intentions, they were actively communicating at cross purposes based on assumptions they had made about those intentions. In Sebastian and Taylor's case, it led to needless exasperation, defensiveness, and hurt. At the end of the conversation, neither of them came away having gotten what they wanted. This is not a newly discovered problem. We've all heard some variation of the Taylor and Sebastian story, especially if you've ever read any other relationship advice book. However, this tale is usually told using using conventional stereotypes about gender that started getting moldy decades ago. Lights come up on a suburban living room. A woman comes home and opens up to her male partner about a stressful situation at work. The man, using his hyper rational man brain TM, unloads a laundry list of pragmatic suggestions for how the woman can fix the situation. The woman succumbs to her emotional lady nature and wells up in frustrated tears because the man isn't listening. The man can't stand feeling relationally impotent and harumphs his way back to organizing saw blades in the garage. End scene. While this is usually how the story is presented, there's no real connection between the purpose of communication and someone's gender. It would be incredibly limiting if there were. Rather, all of us have different purposes for our communication at different times based on what we are trying to accomplish or what we need from the other person. Sadly, when that communication doesn't line up with our partners, it can end up doing the opposite of what we wanted. It's a tale as old as time, repeated regardless of the gender, sexual orientation, or relationship style of the players. Without understanding the purpose behind our own communication, armed only with assumptions about our partner's purposes, we all too often set ourselves up for communication failure. The cost of cross purpose communication. Communicating at cross purposes brings up a host of problems. Below are a few examples of how this can show up in your relationships. Defensiveness. If your partner gets upset when you offer sympathy at a time when they really wanted advice, it's natural to want to cry, "But I was just trying to help. Why are you mad at me for trying to support you?" People in healthy relationships are rarely intending for communication to go awry. When your partner comes to you hoping you'll listen to their problems, it's unlikely that you're just waiting for a chance to disappoint them. Unfortunately, good intentions don't cancel out the negative impact of communication mishaps. Good intentions can, however, make us all too ready to get defensive when the conversation falls apart. Powerlessness and confusion. "I have no idea how to help." If you are someone who thrives on problem solving, there's no worse feeling than powerlessness. You may find yourself throwing out suggestions and advice only to have each one shot down by an increasingly irritated partner. Even worse, your partner may accept your advice, but their negative feelings about the situation may not go away. Author and therapist Kathy Labriola, who specializes in working with polyamorous and kinky folks, has seen this come up many times. One partner is experiencing some kind of distress over their partner's outside relationships. They express their feelings, and their partner misconstrues the goal of that communication. Do they just want to express their feelings and receive support and acknowledgement, or are they asking for a change in their partner's behavior or a change in their relationship agreements? Acting in a reactionary manner to any issue that our partner brings up to us is frustratingly common, as is the pain and anger that comes with being told we didn't give our partner what they needed in that moment. Feeling patronized. No one likes to be patronized, and even less so when it's coming from a partner. Without meaning to, even very good advice can come across as condescending if it wasn't asked for in the first place. Responding to a partner's pleas for comfort and empathy by giving your own recommendations can send a message that says, "You are not smart enough to figure this out on your own," or "I know the correct way to solve things and you don't." On the flip side, responding to a partner's requests for tangible guidance with well meaning sympathy can send a message that says, "Poor baby, what a pity that you're struggling with that, but I don't have the time or interest to help you out." Which leads us to the next issue: abandonment and neglect. So much communication in relationships is about connection. Even the seemingly innocuous things that your partner says may contain significant appeals for connection. Listen to me, care about me, see my pain, help me out, comfort me, take an interest in me, play with me. These are sometimes related to bids for connection, which is a term coined by doctors John and Julie Gottman for the many small and large ways in which one partner attempts to connect with the other. Inviting a partner to do an activity together, starting a conversation, hinting at an inside joke, or asking for help are some examples of bids for communication. You can find more about bids in the Extra Tools section. But if you're not aware of those bids, or if you come to a mistaken conclusion about what your partner is seeking, that opportunity for connection is lost and both of you may feel dropped by the other person. When you fail to recognize what your partner is seeking, it can come across as abandonment or neglect. Sorry, you're on your own here, or your pain and interest and stress don't matter that much to me, or even I don't have an interest in what you're feeling. All pretty painful messages to receive from a partner. And that is where we are going to stop today. Page 42, about midway down the page. And we will pick it up next time we read this particular book. I will make sure to list that this is the book we are reading. We are still going to be reading my fanfic that I wrote quite a few years back. I have every interest in wanting to continue to read it. It was a fun thing to write, and it's fun to read, especially considering I haven't read it in a while or out loud. We're also going to try and pick up back where we left off with both Robin Hood and with The Very Best of Charles DeLint. I just got to figure out where to put those in. But the good thing about both of those is that they are a collection of short stories, so we can pick them up whenever we want. And in the meantime, we're going to go ahead and get our raid started. I want to thank you all again once more for coming and sitting with me for a while we read this new book together. Give me just a minute to find our raid. I didn't get any suggestions in stream, so I'm just going to go ahead and go with one that I feel comfortable raiding into. Just bear with me while I do that. You know what? Why not? Let me just see. Oops. I'm not 100% sure how much longer she plans to stream, but I'm going to go ahead and choose to raid into her channel. Assuming it lets me. I've had some bad luck recently. I don't know that it worked. Let me try again. Oh, we are. Good. Okay. Excellent. Okay. So we're going to go right into Falcor, the Book Dragons channel. Falcor is a reader and an ASM artist, somebody that we've been with for a while. As a reader, as a follower, she's great. I hope you do enjoy where she picks up where we left off. Thank you again once more for coming and sitting with me today. I look forward to reading again with you in the future. In the meantime, make sure to take care of yourselves, take your meds, drink some water, make sure to go out and get some fresh air every so often. And of course, if you have any furry, scaly, or feathery babes, make sure to give them a hug and kiss from me. I'll see you next time. Take care. Stick with us again while we raid out.